everyone. Welcome to the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast, where we explore our shared love for watching and discussing movies recorded in the late after work hours, often in lieu of a good night's rest. I'm Julian.
I'm Madeline.
And I'm Emilio. The three of us are colleagues at a Midtown Manhattan music school. Yes, music is what brings us together, but movies are what keep us together, talking at the end of the night. So we've created some order to this ongoing trend by recording these conversations, considering an overarching theme while we cycle through 5 unique guidelines for engagement.
You can email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. Seriously, we would love to hear from you. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for updates, highlights, clips, and other visual supplements to the audio we record at Sleepless Cinematic Pod.
In addition to these main episodes, we record and release bonus one-off episodes as we see fit. And while we do this, you, the listener, can count on the three of us doing what we've grown to love, foregoing sleep for a discussion about movies every other week.
And we've seen fit this week to record one of these bonus episodes to discuss the newly released sequel to one of the greatest films ever made about musicians, the totemic 1984 mockumentary, This Is Spinal Tap. 41 years after that film's release, it has been followed up with a new installment titled Spinal Tap II, The End Continues. And after discussing the original film on our podcast for the film's 40th anniversary, it only felt right to do our due diligence with the new installment in the saga it began.
Yeah, and I should say that while there's a bit of finality in this film, Spinal Tap II, The End Continues should not be confused with Final Destination 2.
Yeah, that's true.
From the early 2000s. This is the one with the logging truck melee. That's how I always remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very classic early aughts horror imagery. I also feel like a song called The Second Final Destination would have made a great Spinal Tap song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of finality and ends, this film is also not to be confused with Black Sabbath, The End of the End.
Oh, yes.
Which
very
is
nice.
the 2017 documentary about their final tour.
Oh,
yeah.
Very appropriate.
Final tour, not to be confused with the
Final show.
final concert that happened earlier this summer, which I think we'll say a little bit more about as this conversation goes
Probably.
on.
Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yes, rest in peace, Ozzy. Well, you're talking about finality, but speaking of continuations, film is also not to be confused with Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues.
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness.
And yes, on the surface level, Anchorman and Spinal Tap, two very different intellectual properties. Easy to not confuse, but that subtitle, though.
Definitely.
Legend, The End Continues. I mean, there was a part of my brain that was still thinking this movie was called Spinal Tap 2, The Legend Continues.
Yeah. I mean, and it wouldn't be inaccurate.
Yeah. It took 9 years for an Anchorman sequel. It's taken 41 years for a Spinal Tap sequel. Had there not been the strikes in the summer of 2023, maybe it would have been exactly 40 years.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Emilio, what is this movie about?
Great question, Madeline. Well, it's been over 40 years, as we just said, since they were all together, and now everyone's favorite ambiguously Italian-American documentary filmmaker, Marty DiBergi, is back behind the camera following England's once loudest band yet again. Since we've last seen them, Spinal Tap's core trio have all gone their separate ways. Nigel Tufnell has pivoted into running a cheese shop, where he's also an occasional guitar barterer, I guess. David St. Hubbins is camped out in sunny California, writing music for true crime podcasts and I guess like on hold music.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek Smalls is the proprietor and docent of a glue museum. Playing together appears to be one of the last things on their minds, as years-long tension between them drove them apart, seemingly for good, 15 years ago. But an outstanding contractual obligation inherited by Hope Faith, love that name, the daughter of the band's former manager, Ian Faith, pulls these dusty rockers from their seclusion from each other and out to New Orleans for a final reunion show. Cameos abound. A new manager who seems to hate music has too much to say. The band's stay there in the Big Easy is frequently interrupted by ghost tours, and old wounds between the guys are reopened. But you know what? The show must go on, and we are all treated to one last go around with these aging rock stars, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I have to say, I've seen a lot of these ghost tours in New Orleans.
Yes.
I've never seen them with the ghost monitors.
Neither have I.
Is this a thing?
Well, it's been like 10 years since I've been there.
Okay.
How recently have you been?
It's been a few years, but I've been a lot. And I've
Got
seen
it.
a lot of these tours. I've never seen them go inside somewhere. So maybe these are devices that they only give you if you go inside of a building. I mostly just see them on the sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was surprised by their brazenness.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do they call those things? Spirit boxes?
Something like that.
Well, because now there's a pretty famous band called Spirit Box.
I like
And
that.
well, I wonder
Not
if
to
they
be confused with Spinal Tap.
Yeah, really. And they're a metal band too.
Oh my gosh. There you
adding
go.
to it. But yeah, so we've all seen Spinal Tap 2 now. I can personally say that I have seen Spinal Tap 2 two times.
2 times. You were the first of us to see it. And
Yeah.
I also think you've seen it most recently.
Yes. We're recording this on a Wednesday. The most recent viewing was on the preceding Monday
You're
night.
the bread of the viewing sandwich.
Yeah, and so you both have seen it.
In between.
Once in between my two viewings.
Yes, yeah.
Well, that feels like a book title. The bread of the viewing sandwich.
That's correct. I saw this movie last Thursday,
Mhm.
and I only got a chance to see it once. The powers to be between AT&T and T-Mobile
You were kidnapped by T-Mobile.
Prevented me from getting one last viewing in to talk about this movie, but I'm here. I'm ready to go, as ready as I'll ever be.
I'm curious about everyone's viewing experiences because, Julian, I know one of your viewings was at an Alamo Drafthouse.
Yes.
And my one viewing was at a different Alamo Drafthouse.
Mhm.
And there is a pre-roll where they introduce, the band introduces the film to Alamo Drafthouse. And they're
Yeah.
kind of like stumbling because they have no idea where Alamo Drafthouse is. And I was curious if they did multiple of these pre-rolls for other movie theater chains. But Julian, also you saw it at the Village East, which seems like not the type of place that would get one of these.
Yeah, there wasn't one that showed there.
But I'm curious if
neither-
you got
yeah,
one. Not at the Regal either.
Unfortunately, I feel like I would have liked that.
I enjoyed it. I think it was a nice kickoff. I am still curious. So if you saw Spinal Tap somewhere other than Alamo and got a pre-roll where they introduced it to your specific theater chain, please write to us because I am so curious.
Yeah. Email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com.
Yes, and it also sounds a little bit like, I mean, if you interpret that term a little differently, that they were just handing out weed samples with the movies.
Yes, that also.
Which I have not heard of that happening, though. Again, listeners, if you have proof to the contrary, tell us, prove us wrong.
Again, email us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com.
If someone tried to sell you drugs on the way into Spinal Tap 2.
I did want to ask really quick, how well attended were your guys' screenings?
Not well.
Yeah.
I think
Neither
that
was mine.
Dougie and I were there. There was another couple in our row. I want to say that there were maybe a total of 7 people in the whole theater. Alamo theaters are not particularly large, but it was certainly less than a third of the way full. Yeah, I think there were probably 7 people there. And this was like on a Saturday night at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, prime time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you?
I think it was me and 2 other people. So
On a Thursday evening.
On a Thursday evening.
Less than a week after it came out.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like I had almost the theater to myself because these 2 people were extremely quiet. I never heard a peep out of
No
them.
laughter.
No laughter.
At the very least, the guy in the couple sitting close to us at my screening was laughing quite a lot. He seemed to be enjoying it, which I appreciated.
I feel like comedies have the potential to work so well.
In a theater
In a
full
theater.
of people enjoying that.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a little bit of a letdown, I feel, so soon after the release of this film.
For sure.
To not even have like a puncher's chance at just
Crowd laughter.
Exactly.
Raucous.
Just having it gassed up a little bit.
So, Julian, how about your 2
Yeah, how about
screenings?
yours, man?
I think I was a little luckier in who I was surrounded by.
Mm-hmm.
The first viewing at Village East was on the Saturday after it opened. It was not particularly well attended. I want to say there were like between 12 and 15 people in the theater. It was not in one of their huge screens, but the people there were enjoying it. So it was a pretty nice crowd to be a part of. And that was the Saturday after it opened. We're recording this less than 2 weeks after its official release. And already the showtimes have started to dwindle.
I mean, it's only made like $3 million.
Yes, against how big is the budget? Against a $22.6 million budget.
But most of that went to Elton John.
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Fair point. I mean, it's like that was announced well before the movie came out that he'd be appearing in it.
Yeah.
Sure. I think he's in the trailers and everything, but
yeah.
But I think they definitely wanted to show that to try to sell this movie. As we can see, it needed a boost.
This is not doing Rocket Man numbers.
No.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
But then the second viewing, as you mentioned, Madeline was also in an Alamo Draft House. Not the one that you went to. I was at the Brooklyn one. This was at 9 p.m. on a Monday. I went with a few musician friends of mine. We were three in a crowd of, I want to say, like 10 people. In the second viewing, there was some pretty uproarious laughter.
That's great.
And this doesn't always happen to me with certain movies, but I laughed harder at certain jokes the second time.
I feel that way about the original Spinal Tap.
I was just about to say, I feel the same.
I think you can further appreciate a lot of the jokes that, because they're improvised, they're easy to kind of just roll past you and not fully appreciate the first time.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but also if you have an audience there to react with you.
Of course.
Yeah.
And on the subject of reception, I mean, what did you guys think of this? I'm legitimately curious. We haven't talked too much about this.
I had a good time with this movie. I can definitely say I liked it. This movie has an impossible task ahead of it. Like, there's no way this was going to be as well received as the original. That film is a classic. Almost everyone I know that's seen it has loved it. And I think that's the case for most people. So there was such a high bar going into it. But I personally set a really low bar for this film because I was like, there's no way they're going to be able to recreate the magic of the first film. And so I think because I personally went in with low expectations, it exceeded them for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Julian?
I really tried to go in cold to this movie that I didn't even look up the Rotten Tomatoes score before I saw it the first time. But I had here and there seen a few stray reviews that seemed to praise it, and I concur with them. I thought it was a good time. Like you said, Madeline, it's you have to go in knowing that it's it is not going to measure up to the original film. It is, as you said, an impossible task. But I think a strength of this movie is that it knows that about itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't try to, and a big strength of the first movie is that I don't think that anyone involved in it knew it was going to be the masterpiece that it became as they were making it. That there was a lot of truly figuring things out on the fly in that. And, it's, not going to be exactly the same case making a sequel for it 40 years later when they have a legacy to protect. But I think that, there's a lightness of approach in the original movie that I think helps it a lot. And I think you can feel some of that in this sequel too, that everyone involved, they know their strengths, they know their limits too. And as a result, the film that they have made, I think, it knows what it is, and it's very entertaining. If the first one's a masterpiece, I'd probably rate this one more around like 4 stars out of 5, but it's a solid good time.
Cool. I think if we're going to take that star system approach, I like the two of you. I came in absolutely being like, I need to be ready to be extremely disappointed by this movie. I had also seen a stray review or two, and I feel like most of the reviews I saw were like not very generous to the film. And I think that factored in a little bit to me lowering my expectation to below basement level for this film.
Yeah.
And I liked the movie, but I would put this more at a 3 out of 5 from the perspective of, I think there's some things I just couldn't help but chuckle at or smile at. I think there's just kind of an energy to the movie that, I don't know. It was tricky. I had to work to be with this movie in a way that I was not prepared for. That I feel factored into the way that I felt, even with lower expectations, a tiny bit underwhelmed. That being said, it's not a bad movie.
It's not.
And like you said, it has an absolutely impossible task. Like I actually sometimes look at movies like this and I'm like, $22 million. Like, are you like really? You're gonna stake $22 million on something on taking this type of chance. It's literally a snowball's chance in hell. That this movie kind of approaches even, I think, the brilliance of the original. But that being said, like, it wasn't a bad time.
Yeah.
I was not like, oh, why did I do that?
Definitely
It was
not.
fine.
Yeah, I didn't find myself, I land somewhere, I think, between the two of you. Like, I would put it at like 3.5, or like, as Blank Check says, a gentleman's 7.
Out of 10?
Yeah, out of 10.
Nice. Okay.
So that's where I would personally start it. I didn't find myself actually laughing out loud at really anything. It was more of like a soft chuckle.
Same with me. There was only one moment that I think actually made me crack up, and I was surprised at this one.
Okay.
We'll get to it later.
I wonder if I had a moment, like I had more than one moment, but I wonder if one of those moments was the same as yours.
Okay. I'm excited to see if we converge there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's funny. Like, it wasn't bad. It was not
Definitely
bad.
not.
I would actually recommend this movie to a fan of the original.
Mhm.
I think I'll say this too. It would not surprise me if I saw this movie again and thought it was a little bit better.
Mhm.
It seems to me, Julian, the way you described it
Mhm.
and the way we kind of set up top, these are, even at their advanced age, like masters of their craft. Like, they're still, I think, extremely funny. Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer. I'll throw Rob Reiner in there too. I feel like he was like kind of in the movie a lot.
Yeah.
Not in a horrible way, but like in a way I wasn't really expecting.
He's like kind of in the first one a lot. Do
Yeah.
you feel like he was in this one more?
I feel like he was in this one more, but maybe I just am misremembering. But yeah, I mean, like, they're all still very extremely talented, and
Yeah.
so I wouldn't shock me if I saw it again and was just like, oh yeah, there's stuff here that I missed. You know?
Yeah, I kind of just enjoyed hanging out with these characters. I think that I had some qualms about the structure of the film, and that, like, the original film, you know, it's kind of it's following their tour, you know.
I think I'm with you.
This one is kind of working up to an individual, like, you know, reunion concert, and I feel like the preparation aspect that takes up the most of the film was structured in a very weird way, where there wasn't any sort of like there weren't any clear markers on like what they need to do necessarily.
Yeah, I felt that too.
That made the pace, I think, slightly odd. Like, you spend a lot of time in their rehearsal studio, but it all just kind of felt like, here's today's gag. Like, gag of the day is that they're going to learn to dance. Gag of the day is that today Paul McCartney's here. Like, I think gag of the day is what I'm going to go with.
I think it's a great way of putting it. And I feel very similarly. I feel like the road tour aspect of the original creates such an organic environment for these gags to present themselves. And I feel like one of the letdowns for me on this was I felt like the cameos were like borderline super underwhelming. And I think
borderline super.
I qualify it a little bit because it's like they weren't terrible, but they just like I was really ready for. Like, I really wanted the Paul McCartney cameo to be better than it was. But I think, yeah, like you put it, I think there's an aspect to the fact that we kind of already know that there's going to be this big show.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a little bit of unexpectedness. I think that really works in the film's favor, in the original film's favor.
Yeah.
That I think it made this one feel, like I said, I felt like I had to work to be on this movie's frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've never had to do that, even in the very first viewing of the original Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one aspect of this movie that is, you know, pretty surface level, but I think explains a lot about why that is the case, why it has this structure, is simply that the members are all old now.
This is true.
Yeah, that they're the three core band members and Rob Reiner, or excuse me, Marty DeBurgi. I mean, okay, let's, the actors playing these characters
and the characters themselves
are all either pushing 80 or beyond 80 years old now, which is wild to think about. But, when you're that age, you have to be more conscientious about how much you're moving around.
It is crazy to think. Like, I feel like they all kind of play younger. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like when I was doing the math and then actually looking up their ages, I was kind of surprised by it. Like, I feel like some of these guys are kind of convincingly late 60s.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny and some of the humor I think also is in the fact that they are kind of sitting a lot. And
That's true.
and that they have people doing a lot around them, and they're like you're having us dress like this, or which. But I would agree that I think just from a mental acuity place,
Yeah.
like it even when they play dumb,
Yeah.
you see through that, and I think you're right. They do appear younger in that way.
I feel like the member of the group whose career I've seen the most of in the last around 15 years is Michael McKean.
Definitely.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, mostly because of Saul, but other things as well.
Mostly because of that. But then, I mentioned it the first time we talked about Spinal Tap that I saw him in a Broadway play in 2009, Superior Donuts.
Yeah.
Since then, I've seen him in another Broadway play.
Me too.
Yes, we both have. That was Glenn Ross this past spring. And I got his autograph after that too.
I did not.
Yeah, I that was a pretty legendary autographing session for me. I stage doored. I got the entire cast's autographs. I had a pretty full interaction with Kieran Culkin too.
Very cool.
Yeah, maybe I'll tell that story another time. But fun fact too, it's that there was we're still in the early stages of talking about this movie, but later on in the events that play out, there's an allegation of something having occurred in October 2009 that broke the band apart. And I wonder if that show was already going on at that time. That would create a little conflict in the continuity there.
A little unlikely shared universe.
Okay, I can't remember which day of that month,
oh God,
but I do remember I saw it in November 2009.
Jeez.
Wow.
So that play was probably already, I don't remember if it was a preview.
Damn, all right.
But
Crazy.
I do remember that it was then maybe they're
It was more than half your life ago.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so then Michael McKean is the actor of the group who I've seen the most of in the last 15 years, and I feel like I certainly understand what you were saying, Madeline, about him playing a little younger.
Yeah.
All of the actors have just really, physically and, just in personality aged quite well. Aging is an inevitable aspect of this movie, as our conversation already proves. But following up the original film with all of its great accuracies in the portrayal of musicians, despite being ostensibly a parody, this sequel catches up with the characters when they're 40 years or 41 years older, depending on how you think of it. And so what do we think of Spinal Tap 2's general portrayal of aged rock stars, and what moments from it do you think speak to greater truths in this vein?
Yeah, so we have to think about Simon, their new manager, and him telling them that it would be really helpful if one, but ideally no more than two of them die on stage, because that is an element, within our current reality of artists, of musicians continuing to tour and continuing to work up until the final days of their life, with some people, having actually died on stage, but others, dying very close to a final show or in the middle of a final tour. So
Frankie Valli.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And as we mentioned, Ozzy passed very recently.
Good point.
He's someone that was playing right up until the time of his death, pretty much. So that's the moment that sticks out to me. That is, I'd say, upsetting, but also fairly accurate.
Well, that's, the original Spinal Tap had some very prescient moments in it. And that, this movie was filmed about a year and a half before release. And, that just becomes another prescient moment where, the movie is filmed before this final Black Sabbath concert and released after it. And that immediately my mind went there during that scene early on in Spinal Tap 2. But I also had to think of it's played a little more for laughs in this fictional story, but have you guys seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story?
A long time ago, but yeah.
I haven't actually.
Yeah, and that's another movie. It was a long time ago that I saw it too. I really should revisit it. But I feel like it's technically a spoiler for the movie, but I don't think anyone here will be that surprised that, there's a final concert at the end and then a little card that says Dewey died 3 minutes after walking off stage.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that movie is cited a lot as like, it's well regarded as like sort of a, you can call it a parody of a music biopic, but I think that there's some esteem for it in kind of the same form as the original This Is Spinal Tap, where it's like, even if it's kind of making fun of what it's depicting, that there's something very true about it too.
Yeah.
I think that movie was a big coming out party for John C. Reilly. As
Sure.
Like, I can lead a movie and I can be like absurdly funny, but also do my own singing. And I know he did that in Chicago, but it was really, the movie was resting on his shoulders in a way that I think hadn't really happened before that. But yeah. Fun movie. Also, just right before, would you say 2009?
That was 2007.
That's what
movie.
I thought.
Yeah.
It came out right around then.
Close.
Very close. Yeah.
But going back to to how Spinal Tap 2 portrays aged rock stars. I think that, going back to the opening montage of catching up with the characters, that was the first area where I enjoyed some of the notes it was hitting, pun intended, in regards to its portrayal of aged rock stars. Like I'm thinking now of like the first scene we get with David St. Hubbins in his present form, where he's primarily a composer, like he composes music for podcasts.
I love that. I kind of touched me a little bit.
It kind of touched me too.
Yeah, you should.
100%.
Yeah, but then there's that moment where he's telling Marty DeBurgi that he won a Holdie, which is award for on hold music.
Yes,
and
that was quite good.
Yes. And then there's a moment, it's funny, but I did think this was a really honest and admirable moment where he's like playing a piece of music that he's composed and he has like a wait for it moment and his favorite part comes up. I think as like a younger person, sometimes you can look at an older person doing that and chuckle a little bit at it, but there is something really sincere about it.
Oh, for
Definitely.
sure.
Yeah. So I genuinely appreciated that moment. I also enjoyed in that scene that he had composed a score for a film called Night of the Assisted Living Dead.
I caught that.
Yeah.
This movie has a couple really incredible puns. When you asked that question, Julian, on the subject of assisted living, I feel like there is an element of this movie where the people around the Spinal Tap members almost kind of treat them like they are there to kind of pick the bones. Like they're just trying to get the most out of this like quote unquote legacy act.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning that a little bit too, I think, with the manager. But the thing that jumped out to me is just like the music industry has changed so dramatically, and there is like a cottage industry inside what's left of the music industry that is trying to mine legacy acts for everything that they can get.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt a little bit of that going on. I felt like in some ways they could have driven that home a little further even. But that's really more of a nitpick.
Yeah.
That's what jumped out to me.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about is I don't know if it's the manager, if it's Hope Faith, which again, great name, who says to them like, oh, well, your audience, they're all going to be like old as hell. Like we should probably put seats out here. Like, we should probably have paramedics standing by. Like your audience is all going to be like people in their 70s. But we actually see the crowd and that's not true. Like
at the beginning,
they have a very like diverse audience age wise. And you see a lot of young people who have clearly like come to this music. And I think about this being, in theory, the type of band that people are like, oh yeah, well, like my dad listened to this band. Like I listened to this as a teenager. I was exposed to this by, my parents or an older brother or something, or they're just coming to it as music lovers. I like to think about the reality in which Spinal Tap is like a real band that's not like played by actors. That's the caveat, in that they are a real band. Like they do tour like in our reality also. But you guys know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I like to think about that reality and like, well, how would you come to Spinal Tap as a music lover in the reality where This Is Spinal Tap is not a fictional film?
Well, I think that the movie plays with it a little bit by actually introducing some of these real life musicians.
Yeah.
Like I got a chuckle. Probably the first chuckle that really came to me from this movie was the Garth Brooks cover of Big Bottom.
Yeah, how it like blows up, goes viral on TikTok.
Exactly. Yeah. And I thought that was actually kind of a fun way of addressing what you just talked about. It's like, I think this is a way that this band actually could create something for itself in our modern music listening, culture.
Yeah, where these legacy acts will in fact, one of the things that pushed Rob Reiner forward in making this movie, because he had some reservations before the movie went into production, but the resurgence of Kate Bush's song Running Up That Hill gave him hope.
Things.
What was that?
I said, thank you, Stranger Things.
Yes, thank you, Stranger Things. It gave him hope and faith, you might say, that this follow-up could see the light of day and have a good reaction too. And inevitably, going into this movie, that a lot of songs from the original film are going to be played again. And I liked how this movie went about it, because that was another thing that felt very believable about the band to me, that they're still playing these songs, but it's just a fact that a lot of bands that reach that long, that make it to that point in their career, that have been together or have existed for that long, will still be playing those songs. But they don't. But I think if they really love what they do, and there's some real great material to work with, those songs don't feel stale after that time.
Unless you're Bob Dylan.
That too, yes.
But it makes me think about like when I saw David Byrne's Broadway show a few years ago, American Utopia, that there were some songs there that go back to the early days of the Talking Heads, and they still felt fresh as ever.
Yeah, it's like I saw Weezer this year, and it's like, well, now Weezer is a band that's 30 years old, and they're very much, they played the entire Blue album, like plus other big hits of theirs. And that's what people want to hear at a Weezer concert. You don't want to hear anything they've released in the last decade. They know you don't want to hear that. They don't play that.
They don't want, none of these fans want Ratitude or Hurley or any of that stuff.
Well, it's a few years
Pacific Daydream.
A few years ago, I saw They Might Be Giants, and they were doing it was an anniversary, or maybe not an anniversary, but they were playing probably their most famous album, Flood, in full. And that's the one that has like Istanbul, Constantinople, a bunch of other of their most famous songs. But then they included a few songs from more recent releases too. And like, I think that one of the two Johns in that band, John Flansburgh or John Linnell, said live after saying that, like, I know, like, we know, like, yeah, it's like, you guys want to hear the old stuff, but we're going to do this anyway. But then, when it gets to that point in Spinal Tap 2, we're jumping ahead to the end a little bit. Like, you hear some of those songs from the original film played again, like Hell Hole, and Big Bottom has a slightly earlier appearance. But then also Cups and Cakes has an earlier appearance too.
Yep.
Naturally Stonehenge. I mean, it's in the poster. Right. But
give me some money. Yeah, they do that one in rehearsal, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And there's a great harmonica solo in it as well. Yeah. But I think that, for me, I was maybe a little less vocal than some other fans in the crowd when I saw it the first time. But hearing those songs, there is a feeling like when you're at an actual concert, like, woo, they're doing it.
Yeah, there is, to the point that when we're actually at the reunion concert and we get much shorter takes of all of these songs, I'm sad because I kind of just want to listen to them in full. And you really only get like 30 seconds or so of each song.
And sing along to them.
Exactly.
And then when you
can revisit the original film, I guess.
But then when you hear all of the different members playing, I mean, they are older, so it's just naturally going to happen. But like the way that David St. Hubbins sings now, it sounds like the way that someone who's been like singing these songs for years, how his voice would develop with that.
He still sounds great.
Yeah, he does.
I got to say, I was like, all right, dude.
But I think a trope of live performances of well-trodden songs is that usually the vocals will be like a little different, maybe like
Of course.
You know, there are certain pitches they choose not to hit, or like they
bring the key down.
The meter's a little different.
Yeah, I have to say that I feel like a lot of these vocalists, you know, you think of someone like Robert Plant, who you like look up live performances from him from the last like decade, and you're like, oh no, like vocally, is he okay? And I think the difference with Spinal Tap and with Michael McKean, I guess, in real life, is that he has not had to sing these songs as much.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like a Spinal Tap in our reality, like kind of tours for fun. Like they've played a lot of shows, but it's not like they're doing like 7 shows a week or anything.
Yeah,
like they're not on these long
200 dates a year.
Yeah,
or whatever.
worldwide tours. And even in the reality of the film, like they haven't played in the last 15 years. So I feel like Michael McKean's singing voice and David's singing voice as a character is not as strained as some of these other people who are really having to just like lay it all out on the table.
Sure.
I gotta say, and I don't know how you guys feel, one of my little like nitpicks about the end is I didn't get a sense throughout the ending performance that there was like a lot of joy coming from it.
Yeah. From them as performers.
From them as performers. And actually that was something that like I kind of wanted. I feel like I that would have been like a really nice touch.
Yeah.
And I think it would have actually made the ending of this movie even funnier. I think
that was my issue possibly with the way that they structure the end, where it being like, well, here's 30 seconds of like 5 different songs, is maybe if they chose like 1 or 2 and really leaned into like the chemistry between them on stage and like the forgiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Then maybe that would have worked a little better for me and for you.
Yeah, totally. It felt a little bit like they were just still, and this is kind of a trope of the movie that I found sometimes funny. And then kind of at the end, like kind of worked against it, was they were like, we're too old for this shit.
Yeah.
And I would have loved at the end if that had come through a little bit more in the performances. But you know, the actual performing of the songs, I think, was still kind of fun. And
it's solid. Yeah.
And it did make me go like, oh yeah, this song's kind of awesome. You know, pretty much across the board. And so yeah.
Totally. But then going a little earlier into the narrative as well, I mean, one of those moments where I do think that chemistry they have as a band comes across, and I honestly found this pretty touching, was when they first enter the new studio where they're rehearsing, and then Nigel, David, and Derek all just break into this old like English folk song.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And start harmonizing with one another. And that's, you know, it's amusing to watch, but that's a moment where like they probably all just knew this song together, like, you know, Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer, and they just, you know, broke into it, and that's the moment.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, that was really touching. And it was like, is this kind of where this is going to go? Is it going to come back full circle?
Yeah.
For my taste, not quite as much as I would have liked.
I
but
think
yes.
because they're trying to hold on to this tension that broke the band up. And they don't really tell you for a lot of the film, like what the straw that broke the camel's back was. Maybe it was David going to Broadway. That's possible. But eventually the film tells you like, oh, well, you know, he slept with my wife or whatever.
Right.
That felt like so deflating to me.
Yes.
Where I was like, okay, so that's it. Like, you think he slept with your wife. He says he didn't. The other guy says he's the one that did it.
Yeah.
I kind of thought it was a little funny at the end.
Funny.
Yeah. I liked how they tied it up a little bit.
I like the way that they tied it, but I didn't really like that it was just like, oh, well, it all just comes down to that.
Well, it's funny because I remember when we saw Spinal Tap for our conversation about a year ago, one of the things I kind of forgot about that movie is how towards the very end, you lose some of the documentary verite for a moment to get into the chemistry and the relationship between Nigel and David.
Yeah.
And it becomes oddly not so candid. You kind of feel like, you know, the camera gets a lot closer and there's like actual sort of like 2 shots, like you're actually kind of seeing them in these like reverse shots, which is again not like a traditional look for a documentary.
Yeah.
And Spinal Tap 2 does the very same thing in almost the same place.
In like the kind of flashback. Like he's left, it's like David's left the concert. Is this where you're thinking of?
I'm actually thinking of right before they go on stage. They have that exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it gets really close to them, and it doesn't no longer really feels like a
It
documentary.
doesn't feel like Marty's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also thinking of like when after he is left, he's like stormed out and he happens across these musicians on the street. And
right.
there is this kind of like flashback to like the two of them,
yes.
fairly
Yeah.
young.
Right.
And that's an interesting moment where like the hand of Marty as the director shows without his face showing because of that clip that he inserts.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's something that you wouldn't really be able to get the same way with the original because they don't have that kind of footage to work with, right?
Well, it goes back to that moment in the original movie where it's early in that film where Nigel and David are just reflecting on a song that they both played together as kids, and then they start singing it spontaneously. And I think the pleasure of seeing them sing together in the studio is very similar in Spinal Tap II.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also, just like going back to the way beginning of the film, like when those scenes when you catch up with the characters, I mean, those felt, like Nigel working in this cheese/guitar shop. I mean, maybe that exact combo feels fictional in a way I love, but
sure.
But just of like the aged rock star having like something that may have seemed like a side hustle before that becomes their main thing.
Right.
Later in age. I mean, that's very believable too.
I agree.
And I like, at the end of the original film, Marty is asking all of them, like, if you weren't a musician, what would you be doing?
Right, in the credits, yeah.
And that is none of those answers, I think, are what they end up doing when they are no longer making their money from music.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. But then also that like Derek Smalls, when, you catch up with him and he's, he is the proprietor of this glue museum. And I love that they chose this location, Tootingbeck, London. Yeah, there's some very amusing neighborhood names in London.
Yeah.
That is one of them.
Yeah.
But that, you see this clip of a concert that he played for, I think an album, a performance of some kind called Hell to Pay.
Let's go. That is the best
new song.
pun, and I think in the whole movie.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
It's toupee as in hairpiece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. That was almost worth the price of admission.
You think that's as good as it gets? That was a real concert.
I believe it.
Yeah,
actually,
that Harry Shearer actually performed. I think like in 2018 or 19.
I mean, what a king!
Yeah,
absolutely.
As Derek Smalls.
Yeah, perfect.
But that also kind of made me think about how there was for the 40th anniversary of Monty Python's Flying Circus, there was this documentary made for that occasion, catching up with all the surviving members. And I remember reading an article about them at the time that said that they had all more or less become the things that they made fun of when they were younger. And
I can see that. Yeah.
Moments like that, seeing Derek Smalls playing Hell to Pay with an orchestra, made me think of that too. And I say that with total reverence for Derek Smalls
right.
and Spinal Tap.
Speaking of Derek Smalls, I also really like his song "Rockin' in the Urn."
That is good.
It's funny, but I also think it's very touching. Like, because I think as humorous as it's meant to be, when he finally gets to the chorus of "Rockin' in the Urn," I think that the reaction that you see on the other members' faces is very
earnest?
sweet because it is very earnest. I think where they're all like, well, we are kind of like facing, our oncoming deaths.
not too far from that is a reality.
But that was actually when in the Alamo Drafthouse viewing that I had. So there were like 3 older men sitting next to me and my friends. I estimate that these guys were in their 70s, and when "Rocking in the Urn" when that line was sung, that got a huge laugh out of them.
I believe it.
Yeah, and it the kind of laugh that rubbed off on me too.
Nice. I mean, that's like, you want to see a comedy where people are laughing in the theater.
Yeah. And that happened, and I love a line that comes up a little later in that scene where like the 3 members are just reflecting on it, and I forget if it's Nigel or David, but one of them says, "Yeah, it's as deep as you can get if you think about it."
Right. That's true. Well, when we last spoke about the original Spinal Tap, I think we praised the movie for its accuracy in depicting the realities for rock bands of that era in which the movie was released. But I mean, we talked a little bit about this now, but I mean, can we think of any real life examples of like reluctant reunions that seem to parallel what we see in Spinal Tap 2, I should say?
I feel less in the know about the behind the scenes aspects of some of these reunions, but there have been like a number of bands that have gotten back together in, say, the last 10 years that for a long time it seemed would never reunite. I mean, they've been together consistently since it happened, but I had to wonder a bit about Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Because they're a band that I think were like not together, like the original lineup anyway, was not together for a long time. And from what I understood, it was, there was bitterness between them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And so I have to wonder, like, you can probably look it up. I don't personally know, but like who was the driving force behind that reunion? Was it a manager or was it the members themselves? And I have like, this is another band where I'm like a little less, I'm not like super well versed in the lore, but I believe for many years that they were kind of an on and off together band, which is Jane's Addiction.
Oh, you know what? That's a good example. That kind of leads into a little one that I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah. And I thought of them the first time watching Spinal Tap II, this is a sad case, not for Spinal Tap, but more for Jane's Addiction.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Which is that, as of about a year ago, that band effectively broke up again because of a fight that Perry Farrell and Dave Navarro had on stage that was filmed.
Pretty ugly stuff.
Yeah, pretty ugly stuff. And in recent years too, like I think Perry Farrell has like kind of low key fallen into disfavor. Yeah, I think like, he's just, not that there's been like one big scandal or anything, but just the guy has a vibe.
Yes, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, the example that I was thinking of, and I think, they have weaved in and out with one another, and I think now publicly have said it is officially fully over, is Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
I was getting some Hall & Oates vibes when I was watching Spinal Tap II, but partially just, I think, from that thing I mentioned earlier, which is just Hall & Oates, I think, still has a lot of cachet with a lot of people. I think even younger music goers.
Yeah.
And so they just seem like one of those bands that I could see managers, I could see publicists doing everything they could to just butter these guys up, to get them in a room.
Yeah.
In a way that it kind of seems like Spinal Tap is playing with. But yeah. The other thing I thought of really briefly, we talked about the Garth Brooks cover of Big Bottom that goes viral. Is I was thinking of a real life instance, I think of something like this happening, which was that skateboarding video on TikTok with Dreams, and how that was a real shot in the arm for Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And the members of that band have flat out stated that video like saved their career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, similar energy to Running Up That Hill.
Totally.
Although I think the phenomenon of seeing a song revived by a soundtrack is, it's very much of the present, but it does predate our present time too.
Sure.
You think of like the boost that Hallelujah got from Shrek. Yeah, that's almost 25 years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So soundtracks.
Yeah.
It's really it's very true. Yeah. That
Yeah.
movie did great things for that song.
Yeah, it's funny, man.
Yeah.
Those Shrek movies, I was a little too old for them, but when they came out, but I know they are beloved.
Yeah. I was the right age for the first one, but I think I quickly lost interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was almost certainly not the right age for the first one. I was 4 when it came out, and I probably didn't see it till I was like 6 or 7, but I remember loving it as a kid.
I rewatched that movie recently with Gabriel, and I was like, yo, the first Shrek like fucking rips, man.
Yeah.
It's good. It's very clever. I've not seen the second one though, or the third, or the fourth, or Puss in Boots.
Or Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Yeah, no.
I think there's a 5th one on the way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what's true about all these examples is that I am not deeply invested in the lore of these bands. I don't know how much how close to identical any of their recent happenings have been to what you see in Spinal Tap II. But another band that was like reunited for a moment, and then it seems like nothing's ever really going to happen with them again, is Rage Against the Machine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I that band is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I really hope I hope things are good in that camp.
Yeah, I hope so too. But it sort of seems like Zach De La Rocha, their front man, just kind of like fell out of the spotlight at a certain point and kind of wanted to stay there. And that's, sometimes when you think of like an actor or a musician who used to be huge and you don't know what they're doing now. Like it's not like there was this big fall from grace or anything like that. They just kind of decided like, yeah, you know what? I'm happy with my more modest life. Think of someone like Bridget Fonda, say.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I think in the case of Zach De La Rocha, I think fame and fortune goes contrary to like everything that guy spoke for
Also
in his
true.
music.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't surprise me at all that he didn't really want that. And
Yeah.
that as that creeped into his career, he pushed back on it in a way that felt almost like sabotage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Tom Morello continues to be like the most vocal and present member of that band.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think, wasn't there like I want to say it was their drummer, Brad Wilk, actually drummed for Black Sabbath for a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When Bill Ward was not on great terms with the band. You know, another thing, while we're on the topic of legacy acts, I mean, another thing that's true in Spinal Tap II that's absolutely resembles a real life phenomenon is that you have a position you need to fill in the band and you bring in a much younger member.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the drummer yet, Dee Dee.
Yeah, right. Dee
Yeah.
Dee.
Yeah, and her introduction in Spinal Tap 2 follows this great montage of attempts to acquire famous drummers, namely Questlove, Chad Smith, and Lars Ulrich.
I love Questlove. I feel like this whole podcast has a lot of Questlove
Of course,
love.
yeah.
That was kind of an out there pick from Spinal Tap. I got to admit, like
I feel like, genre wise, he doesn't necessarily meld with their vibe.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was fun to see him. That almost felt a little bit like Amir Thompson Questlove being like, yo, is there any way I can be in this movie?
Yeah. It's like,
even if it feels
I'm a fan, serve me.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, which I'm all for because, you know, he is just like one of the great musical presences in our modern culture.
Sure.
But then, you know, the back and forth where like Chad Smith saying, I'm, you know, not really able to do it, but I hear Lars Ulrich is interested. And then they talk to Lars Ulrich and he's like, well, you know, I'm a couple 4 decades into this whole Metallica thing, but I hear that Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers might be interested.
Yeah, that was good. That was all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And, it's, I mean, not just, you know, because they have like Spinal Tap has the cachet to rack up all these different cameos, but that, you know, with the drummer trope specifically, they can do that. But then they do settle on a drummer named Dee Dee Crockett, who's played by who's played by an actor named Valerie Franco, who plays drums in real life, no surprise, and is a podcast host too.
There we go.
But then, you know, like she aces the audition. She becomes the band's drummer for the duration of this film. And they also, I mean, we haven't even mentioned him yet, but they do have a new keyboard player, Caucasian Jeff.
CJ.
Yeah, and sadly, I mean, David Caff, who played Viv Savage in the original film, died earlier this summer.
I was going to say like recently.
Yeah. And so, but yes, this fact of many older bands, like, you know, having original members, or, you know, original portions of their lineup intact, but having to replace the positions that have been harder to fill with younger members. I mean, I immediately think of a band like Yes, where like their singer, I think, you know, there's been more lineup changes since when I saw them around a decade ago. But at that point, there were still a few members, Steve Howe and Chris Squire and Alan White, namely, who had been in the band for a long time. But then their singer, John Davison, who I believe is still with the band, was much younger than the rest of the group, but also famously Journey. They're another band that has that too.
Yep, that's a good point.
And then, I mean, Queen, of course.
Yeah,
so,
Adam Lambert.
Good point.
Yeah,
Yep.
But still playing all the old hits.
How do we feel about Comparison Corner?
Yeah.
Are there any movies that we can think of to compare to Spinal Tap 2? The end continues.
I have a very quick comparison, which is not a movie, but it's a TV show. Simon Howler, their new manager, cannot listen to music. He can't process it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a joke on Gilmore Girls.
Oh, really?
There's an episode of Gilmore Girls where Lane, who is Rory's best friend, for those who have not seen Gilmore Girls, her band,
Thank you.
She's in a band, and they are allowing her band to rehearse in their garage. And her guitarist, who she later marries, that's not important, her guitarist starts hitting on Lorelai. And Lorelai is kind of trying to like abort this conversation. And the guy's like, you know, you should come to one of our gigs. And Lorelai's like, well, see, the thing thing is, Zach, I have a medical condition where I can't listen to music because my ear canal is so tiny that it will explode if I listen to loud music.
Wow.
So I immediately thought of that.
I wonder which of the creatives, the four main creatives behind
had seen this episode of Gilmore Girls.
It's a Gilmore Girls head.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that poll.
I don't know why, but my automatic thought there was Christopher Guest.
I don't know. On I forget which interview I heard with him, he was like, I don't watch TV. Like, I've seen barely any TV in the last 30 years. I do not watch television.
It's all a ruse. He watches tons of TV.
Or he doesn't watch TV. He just watches Gilmore Girls. Just on repeat.
Maybe there's some...
Like many of us.
Maybe Jamie Lee Curtis watches TV and tells him some things.
I mean, she's on TV.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Michael McKean's on TV.
Yeah.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
Christopher Guest has had to stay informed about pop culture in order to, get the people involved in a bunch of those movies that he made.
And another member of Lane's band is the real life Sebastian Bach.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he plays a character named Gil, who they hire as like their replacement guitarist when their guitarist goes off to college or something. So I feel like that's like in the same realm as Spinal Tap.
I have a brief story, but I was elbowed in the shoulder by Sebastian Bach. I
On
went to
purpose?
He did not realize he was very single-mindedly focused in this moment. I went to go see Sly Stone at, I think it was BB King's, but it was like a pop-up show. This was when Sly Stone was obviously still alive, but very reclusive and hardly playing. And they did Dance to the Music.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, someone on stage was pointing behind me, and they were signaling someone to get closer to the stage. And they came and they handed a mic over to him. And I got elbowed really hard by Sebastian Bach. And he was right next to me and just started yelling, "Dance to the music." So I didn't know he was also in Lane's band.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Which is
The post
Hep Alien.
the post Skid Row days
Yeah.
have maybe been kinder to him than I thought.
Whatever condition the manager Simon Howler has about music maybe is what Christopher Guest has about television.
Maybe that's it.
Possibly so.
My
Can't watch
eyes
television.
Can't process television.
Well, my comparison is also kind of short and kind of funky. It's the movie Space Cowboys from 2000.
Okay.
Do you guys know this movie?
I know it, but I haven't seen it.
Same.
I saw this movie around the time it came out. I've not seen it since. It's charming and kind of silly and a lot of like, we're too old for this shit.
Yeah.
But a little bit of fan service for people who've had long relationships, parasocial relationships with the actors Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones, Donald Sutherland, and James Garner. They play aged astronauts who go and repair, I think, a Soviet satellite, in space. I can't totally remember. But these movies kind of have a little bit of a similar vibe where you're like, here we are, we're like rolling out the hits. Like these characters are very similar to how you've seen them, how they used to be played. And I remember the movie was like generally well received. So Space Cowboys, that's my...
Well, I haven't seen these movies, but I imagine on that basis, there are probably comparisons to be made to films like Wild Hogs. Or,
yes, right.
Yeah.
Or like Going in Style.
Or that one.
Yeah.
Or 80 for Brady.
80 for Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Or Last Vegas. You guys remember that one?
I don't know that one.
That sounds a little familiar.
That one had like Kevin Kline, Morgan Freeman, another Morgan Freeman Going in Style, Robert De Niro, and one other person who I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
But it was like one of those like, we're going to get, these, septuagenarian actors out there and dress them up and like give them just give all the audiences that have grown up and have again parasocial relationships with these actors just one more just like fun roll in the hay.
Do you guys know These Old Broads?
I don't think I know that.
No.
Okay, so this is a movie written by Carrie Fisher.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Starring Debbie Reynolds and also Shirley MacLaine, Joan Collins, and Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, wow.
This came out in 2001.
What?
And it is, I mean, it's fictional. They're not playing themselves, but it is kind of like we're getting the gang back together.
Sure. Cool.
I don't actually remember this being very good,
Okay.
but it is a spectacle and it's a similar kind of thing for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, the comparison that I thought to draw going back to television is something that I know you and I, Madeline, are both big fans of, and that is the series Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
Just a few years ago.
Oh, yes. Dougie and I were talking about this after we saw it.
Yeah, just a few years ago, the Kids in the Hall reunited to put together a 6th season, I think, for Amazon Prime. And one of the, where there's a surface level, but still, I think, notable comparison to make is that, they're all visibly older and they're not doing anything to try to make themselves look prettier or anything. They're just very honest about being their older selves. And I think that's a strength.
Yeah.
But especially too that Kids in the Hall, they're part of their whole shtick is awkwardness, and that it's not about trying to be these polished people. They're inherently quirky, and it's all from the beginning. It was all about leaning into that, but also that inevitably in the 6th season of the show that there were cameos from famous longtime fans. I think Mark Hamill made an appearance there.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson did as well. And then there were also inevitably callbacks to some of their classic gags.
Yeah.
Be it the Eradicator or the Head Crusher, who was having a bit of a standoff with the CN Tower in Toronto. And I mean, in my personal opinion, I watched the show and even, when it was doing the kind of fan servicey thing, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it because I feel like they brought a refreshing kind of take to their fan service, which maybe we'll talk about soon. I do think that sometimes this film does successfully and maybe sometimes less successfully. But I think that you're so spot on that the most recent season, the revival season of Kids in the Hall, I think has the most similar energy to this movie of anything I can think of.
Yeah. And Kids in the Hall, the original TV show had stopped around 30 years before the new season.
Yeah.
But I think they had broken up for a while after that, but they had still done many things together in the years since.
But there was a lot of tension when that show was ending and during the filming of Brain Candy.
Yeah.
I think that several of the members were not even on speaking terms at that particular point. And I'm glad that they were able to work through that. But it does sound like they had a similar kind of dynamic to the real life, not the real life, to the fictional Spinal Tap characters. That there is this something happened. There's some kind of tension that they need to work through.
Yeah. But then, thankfully they did, and they've still produced a lot of content in the years since. I mean, there was there was a reunion called Death Comes to Town, 2010. Yeah. A lot of the individual members have continued to work with one another and have had some great solo shows.
Yeah, you and I saw Kevin McDonald together.
Yes, we can personally attest to that.
Earlier this year.
Yeah, I just from that show just remember him in a very sullen way going, Aruba, Bahama, come on, pretty mama.
Because it is important that the show we saw was an original musical.
Yeah, and telling the story of how he fell out with his ex-wife, who he just called Cheater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
no hard feelings there, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen Bruce McCullough live too in a one-man show, and he was great as well. Well, Madeline, you've seen not Scott Thompson, but Buddy Cole.
I have seen Buddy Cole. Yes. Yeah. Puts on a really, really fun show.
Yeah. So between the two of us, we still have to see Dave Foley and Mark McKinney.
Yes. If the two of you would like to come and do shows in New York, then Julian and I will be there.
We certainly will.
So speaking of Kids in the Hall, Spinal Tap II is what would be considered a legasequel or a legacy sequel in a lot of the ways that the Kids in the Hall revival is.
I like that portmanteau word, by the way. I hadn't heard it until you presented this question.
It's funny. I've heard it a lot, but Julian pointed out before we went on mic that I think maybe I just heard it on blank check. And so it has really seared itself into my brain. Other legacy sequels include Beetlejuice, The New Twisters, Bill and Ted Face the Music, Top Gun Maverick. Some Lega sequels are accused of too much fan service and extraneous cameos, but some of the best Lega sequels are able to find balance between these aspects and a refreshing new story. So for each of you, where does this film fall on that spectrum? Did the cameos work for you? Were you excited to see the callbacks from the original film? Or do you think it maybe strayed too much into fan service?
Well, I thought that Spinal Tap 2, one of the strengths of it was that there actually are, in my opinion, surprisingly few callbacks to the big gags of the original film. Like there's no Hello Cleveland revival.
I was very thankful for that.
Yeah. And I think it was a good move on their part. I liked too that, when there's a scene where the new drummer Dee Dee Crockett is being interviewed and she talks about designing her kits designing the color schemes based on things that happened with the past drummers of the band. Yeah. Forget his name right now, but the one who Ed Begley Jr. played, who had died in the mysterious gardening accident.
Yeah, and then another one chokes on someone else's vomit.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and that her kits, were in honor of them. And I liked that. I thought that was a strong form of callback where it's not just completely replaying the old joke. It really is conscious of the legacy of that and paying homage to it. The only other big callback I can think of comes, jumping ahead to the end of Spinal Tap 2 when they perform Stonehenge and then they finally get a model of the appropriate size.
Right.
Or maybe not because it's too big.
Exactly.
And it falls over.
Yeah.
I would argue that it's not too big. It's poor stage planning or unpredicted last minute decisions.
But
based on that.
I
Yes.
like that Hope Faith kind of is saying to the stage manager or whoever he is, like, don't blame her. Like she
that was on you.
Yes,
dog.
she told you to move it, but then you should have corrected for that.
Yeah.
Either don't move it and tell her why,
Mm-hmm.
or move it and then correct where Stonehenge is coming down.
Yeah, you took the L.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like to think that it was the vibrations from her hitting the gong that knocked it over.
Yeah, I think that's
fair.
possible.
Yeah.
It was also, I think, just never particularly stable as soon as it came down.
That's true.
I mean, I think that, so we don't get a goes to 11 moment, but I
Right.
feel like we get some moments that are similar to that. I think the guitar plate with the cheese in it
I love that.
is kind of like this movie's version of this amp goes to 11.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the one where he goes like, don't even look at it or don't touch it? He does that thing where he gets really precious about it.
Yeah.
But does the same thing with the guitar with the price tag.
Yeah.
Where he's like, it's still on there. It's still got the old tagger on it.
Yeah.
But it's like the same thing. He's like, no, don't look at it. Yeah.
But also that you can't keep his favorite cheese in there because it would get too stinky. Yeah.
That too.
But earlier in that same scene, there was one particular detail that got a huge laugh out of one of the friends I saw it with. His name's Noah, and he's someone who works with pedals from time to time.
Yeah.
Well, this movie's got something to say about that.
The pizza pedal was hysterical.
I enjoyed the pizza.
That was nice. That was good. I don't think David St. Hubbins liked that very much, right?
Certainly not.
No.
And I didn't notice this in the film, so I don't know if this is true, but somebody on Letterboxd said that he had a Hatsune Miku pedal, and you're both looking at me like I have no idea what that is. And this is I don't know that I have time to explain Hatsune Miku, but she's kind of like a Japanese character AI kind of thing, but is a musician and is kind of a meme. We can talk about it later.
That's weird.
I'll show you a picture of Hatsune Miku. I do not know for sure if he has a pedal that samples Hatsune Miku, but somebody on Letterboxd said that he does, which would be a very weird deep cut internet reference. I think.
So Christopher Guest doesn't watch TV, but he's on the
he
deep
knows
web.
who Hatsune Miku is.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I will say, and I said this a little bit to you guys off mic, but I have the peanut allergy version of allergies to fan service. I don't know what it is about it, but it absolutely turns me off. Very few things turn me off. Like fan service does.
I think you just appreciate originality.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think that I do. It's funny. It's I get really nervous, I feel, when I think of things that are actively going to try to drum up and work off of my emotions. Like, for example, when we talked Heathers, Madeline asked me, like, have you seen the musical? And I'm like, I saw little bits of it, but I couldn't get myself fully to do that, mostly because I feel like there's fan service. And people love that musical. Like, it is a kind of a beloved thing now.
It's back.
It is back. Yeah, you're right. It is back. But even that, I mean, like, I can't. And part of it is because I just, like, I want to protect, I think, the response that I have to stuff when it felt fresh and didn't feel like it was being mined again and again and again to get money out of me or something. You know, it's one of the reasons why, like, these live action Disney movies, like, they're for the birds for me. Like, honestly, I will say this full on. If we hadn't agreed to talk Spinal Tap 2, I don't think I would have seen it.
Oh, wow.
Just because I think the original is like a kind of a flawless masterpiece. That was part of the reason I brought my expectation way down. Yeah. Is that this is like not my thing. This movie.
No, I understand that. And I think that I was not super hyped for this movie either, and probably would not have seen it in a theater if we weren't covering it. I maybe would have waited. I probably would have seen it at some point, but I probably would have waited until it was streaming, most likely. And you know, with how this release is going, you know, you wait 2 weeks and then it's gone.
I was going to say, might not have to wait too long.
You'll lose your opportunity. But I'm glad that I saw this, and I think that I do feel like overall this film is able to balance fan service, like just enough callbacks without it feeling extraneous. For me. But I do understand your, like, fan service allergy. I think I have that a little bit as well. But I don't necessarily feel it super strongly with this film, because I feel like when I just really enjoy hanging out with certain characters, I'm a little bit more forgiving of it, because I'm like, I'm just kind of happy to be in this space.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I feel like it is a very honest continuation of their story. On this topic of fan service, what I think is interesting about this movie is that it feels like an insightful look into how an actual band would serve their fans. But not in the sense of fan service as we've discussed it, where it's, you know, this is just like a legacy act continuing to do their thing. Yeah. That, I think, is a different type of fan service than when you make a so-called legasequel and replay a lot of the same old gags for an audience that probably wasn't there for the first one.
And I think the benefit to this movie, like the first, being improvisatory is helpful to that. Yeah. I feel like if this film was scripted, then they would have leaned too far into callbacks to original jokes. Yeah. Whereas there's not a this one goes to 11. There's not a Hello Cleveland. And I appreciate that restraint.
Yeah. Well, one of the legasequels that you mentioned that I think did a lot more of that was Beetlejuice.
Yeah, definitely. As soon as you started that sentence, I was like, I know which of the four I named.
Yeah. And I haven't seen all of them. Of the ones you mentioned, I've seen that and Twisters, which I thought was actually a much better movie. But Beetlejuice, I mean, I like certain things about it. There's definitely some original territory in it, and I think a greater point for comparison is that it also catches up with many of the original characters, around like a similar amount of time later, around 35 years in that movie's case, and you see like how their careers have evolved and the relationships as well. But that, I felt like a lot of the highlight moments that movie was aiming for were basically rehashes of things from the first film.
I mean, I liked Beetlejuice. Dougie loved Beetlejuice.
Oh,
so I certainly am not here to disparage Beetlejuice, but it certainly does lean more into the fan service.
Yeah.
See, and I stayed far away from Beetlejuice.
You should not go see that movie. Yeah. I don't think you'd like it.
Yeah. Well, my favorite moment in
particularly because you hold Winona so dear.
I do. Yeah. 100%. Winona forever.
Yeah. My favorite moment in that movie was one that was part of the reason is because it was not a callback to the original. And I won't spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but the Danny DeVito cameo in that movie is that moment, it was a movie that I mostly thought was fine, but that was a moment that I thought was excellent.
So now we're talking cameos. So I want to go back to Spinal Tap 2 to talk cameos, because I don't think the Elton John cameo works.
It's not good.
I don't think it's good.
I don't think it's good.
I don't mind the Paul cameo as much as you seem to, but yeah, the Elton one did not work for me.
Yeah, I feel like both of them were missed opportunities in a big way. In part because there is this like weird reality line that the movie rides, and this is such a weird reference I'm going to bring up, but I listened to this is going to sound so film bro-y of me, but I heard like a clip of Quentin Tarantino talking about this quibble he had with Boogie Nights about how he's like a director like the one that Burt Reynolds' character portrays in that movie would have been aware and self-aware enough to know that he was not making great movies. And he's like, there's something about that pulls me out of the movie. And there's something about Elton John and Paul McCartney being these like extremely totemic artists that kind of like are putting on this sort of act of reverence for the band.
That you like, I don't really buy.
I don't buy it. And the thing is, it's like, I think there's actually a way they could have done it, but I just didn't buy it from them. I felt like they were kind of trotting them out a little bit. It didn't really work for me. That's the fan service, I think, that landed like tough for me.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think the in-world stuff, they did a nice job of like not overstepping, but the new stuff, I was like, ooh, you know.
But that's more of a service to the fans of just those artists than I guess of a, really a Spinal Tap thing.
But
yes
if you're
and no.
bringing in these characters, if you're bringing in these musicians with most of their purpose is to be reverential to this band, they're fans.
Yeah.
And so you, in some ways you are telling, a fan of an actual fan of Spinal Tap, like, well, these guys are also like, these are the most totemic musicians you can think of, and they're also fans of Spinal Tap, just like you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Elton John does too many of these. Like, Elton John is constantly doing these kinds of cameos. Dougie pointed out that he's in like Jojo Siwa's birthday celebration movie. And like, he does things like this all the time.
Keep getting them checks, Elton John.
Well, he's like one of those artists who's supposed to have a farewell recently, who's still like very present.
And that to me makes it less special. I think that's why the Paul McCartney one worked a little bit better for me, because he does a little bit less of this kind of thing. Whereas Elton John, I feel like it, like you look at his letterbox and it's like it's just constant. He has so many of these.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Just keeps going.
I had no idea that Elton John was just was like
constant.
Yeah.
I think that he needs to take a break from this kind of work personally. But if it makes him happy and makes him money, then that's also fine.
I did admittedly enjoy him being brought out on the platform for Stonehenge. And, even if it's not like that much of a thrill, there was a part of me that felt a warmth seeing him play that song.
There's a small part of me that agrees with you, but I also am like, we didn't get to see Spinal Tap really perform Stonehenge
right.
in the first film, where something didn't go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And something goes horribly wrong this time as well. But I kind of just want these guys to be able to play this freaking song.
Well, that's going to have to, the end continues. So maybe there's a third one of these and they finally get through the whole thing.
Also, brief sidebar, it's after midnight. Happy birthday, Emilio.
Happy birthday,
Oh,
Emilio.
thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. So are there any fun, notable details that jump out to us? This movie is, I think, hoping to leave you with a lot of them.
Yes.
There are a couple that I'll mention, but yeah.
Well, I haven't even mentioned the moment that made me laugh the hardest in this movie just yet. And this was one of those moments where I think the first viewing, it registered to me. I thought it was funny, but I didn't have the visceral reaction that I wanted to. And the second time I did. And this is in the scene when they are rehearsing Big Bottom. And
yes.
Thank
you.
They're
Keep
rehearsing
going.
that. And
Keep
then,
going.
this big ass prop drops from the rafters above the stage. This isn't the thing that made me laugh so hard, but it's pretty funny that there is like a simulated fart that comes from that butt, and that one of the crew members said they inserted it because people think that's funny.
I don't know why, but that undid me. Like the eternal fifth grader in me just was not ready for that moment, and it landed so well.
So
I'm so glad that this is the one.
I'm gonna let you continue, but I have to say this is my least favorite joke in the whole movie.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad that there's a little bit of that.
It did not work for me at all, but what did work is I think what you're going to say
is what comes later, right?
Yes,
The sound guys?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, no. What you keep going.
Yeah, the moment that this was funny, but the moment that just destroyed me was what Nigel says right after.
Right after, yes.
Like, I'm having a Mike Duquette moment right now.
Shout out Mike Duquette.
Yeah,
we love you, man.
Where it's, he's just like the fact that Christopher Guest can keep a straight face doing that is a miracle.
Yeah. This part I did really appreciate.
See, and that makes it work. I'm sorry, Madeline. Like for me, it was kind of like the biggest laugh I got.
That's
amazing.
Fine. Yeah. I have no issue with that. And again, Christopher Guest definitely got me. Yeah. He saves it for me.
Okay.
When you're on the bus and you see a woman looking in her bag for her mints, and then she just suddenly goes, it's that noise.
Well, I also then really like the sound guy or stage manager being like, "You want me to go find an old lady farting on a bus?"
That's what I thought we were getting to. I love that it goes even a little further.
And that's just one of the, I think one of the great strengths of the original and frankly of the sequel is the deadpan.
Yeah.
The way that, the core members and Marty DeBurgi are all just able to do what they do so stoically.
Yeah.
And the other scene in Spinal Tap 2 where that really stood out to me was earlier on when they're in the limo ride. It was in the vein of like the drummer stories from the first movie, that it was like someone having died in a, what seems like a very comical way. And then they're just kind of like, yeah, he's gone now. And, they're just very, very deadpan about it. But, this is one of the light, inconvenient.
Oh, he never stopped sneezing.
Oh, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're just talking about it so nonchalantly. It's like, never stop sneezing. Yeah. And that's a moment when I think like the characteristic deadpan of the characters really comes out as a strength.
I want to add on to that a podcast that I used to listen to a lot that I've kind of fallen off of is Dear Hank and John, which is like John Green and Hank Green. And they have it's like a write-in podcast. And somebody wrote in once saying like, my doctor says that sneezing is not normal and that sneezing is never normal. And I'm very worried about this. And that this is now kind of an inside joke on the podcast that like, sneezing is never normal. And anytime someone sneezes, it's like, you need to get that checked.
I gotcha.
Sneezing is never normal. So in this case, this sneezing was not normal.
Right. Yeah. Just a never-ending sneezing.
Yeah.
I feel the way about hiccups. Like when people can't stop hiccuping, I get that sympathetic discomfort for them.
Yeah, it's true of hiccups. It's true of sneezes. Maybe it's true of old women passing gas on a bus too.
Exactly.
Maybe the next drummer will die of hiccuping or of farts.
Yeah.
The other little detail that stood out to me, and this is truly a little detail, it's kind of there and it's gone, was the brief attempt to market tap water in Stonehenge-shaped bottles. Yeah.
And they're is it like, spring water? No, it's tap water.
Yeah, tap water.
And I think in the same scene, they're like bemoaning the fact that the band hasn't been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so a Hall of Fame for them is proposed that looks eerily similar to an IHOP.
Yes, that I remember.
Why am I hungry for pancakes right now?
But also the letter they get from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think, is "fuck you, sincerely yours."
Gosh, so vitriolic. My
Almost
goodness,
as if they thought that they were writing back to Johnny Rotten.
Yeah. Well, so one moment that made me laugh a bit was the metrics that Nigel uses to exchange cheese for guitars, which definitely it made me chuckle. It made me go like, the way to do this is to get one of those like knockoff Les Pauls, because those Les Paul guitars are notoriously pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it would probably net you a good amount of cheese, or like, like dense cheese.
But what do you do with that much cheese?
I mean, that's a good point. I am not a cheese connoisseur. I almost kind of like actively avoid cheese. Like I don't put cheese on sandwiches if I don't need to.
Huh.
So yeah, but I don't know, like to say that I went into Nigel's cheese shop and got, a block of something that was meaningful to him in exchange for a heavy guitar. Maybe that's fan service I'd be okay with.
I don't know whether to be sad about or happy about the fact that there was no reference to Monty Python's cheese shop sketch in that particular tableau.
Too easy.
You would be the one to catch it if it was there, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
I mean, that's arguably a very easy sketch to make references to, because you can just name one of the 43 cheeses that come up there, which technically they do. Nemo Stilton is one. They talk about one of the cows dying, but also off of that same scene though, there's a little cutaway where Marty asks Nigel if he's still playing, and he says he is, and you see a clip of him in a pub with this group of folk musicians. It sounds kind of like they're playing Stonehenge. To me,
yeah,
maybe.
It sounded like the mandolin part of Stonehenge. But he's there with, I think, a Telecaster playing a lot louder than the rest of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There we
Well,
go.
as much as I like Dee Dee, I also like in their montage of drummer auditions, they have like kind of an older woman. She's like in her 60s.
Yeah.
I know all about this woman.
And I am curious to hear about her because I didn't get a chance to look her up, but I was like, she seems cool. Like you should hire her.
Yeah. So this is a real woman. Her name is Dorothy Taylor. I have seen a bunch of videos of her doing drum covers of like Down with the Sickness. I think I saw her also on Jimmy Fallon, The Tonight Show. So that would be a little Questlove connection right there.
Yeah.
But Homegirl has got her rudiments down.
That's awesome.
That's worth checking out.
I'm like, what was wrong with her?
Yeah.
Like, again, Dee Dee's great. But I'm like, that woman seems like, clearly the person you should hire.
Also, it's kind of like age appropriate.
Also age appropriate.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, like, why do we have this conception that like a 60-year-old woman couldn't possibly be into this kind of music
Good point.
She was like young at the point when these guys were at their biggest.
Yeah.
Same
Well
thing with
said.
like the guys in your theater, Julian, who are like in their 70s.
Yeah.
Like this movie came out when like they were young people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we think about like, oh, you get to a certain age and then suddenly you're kind of like a fuddy-duddy and your taste is like lame or whatever.
Nope.
But that's just not what happens in
Not
reality.
hers. Yeah, not hers. Yeah, she's cool, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, but it also a brief shout out to Dee Dee's girlfriend, Annie, who like appears right at the moment after Derek makes a pass at Dee Dee.
Good point.
And but then, she's a good example of that kind of fan in the reality of the movie who, is younger than their typical fan base, but saw them when she was younger. I think on her dad's encouragement.
Mhm.
Also just good to see a queer couple in this setting too.
Totally.
Sure, absolutely.
I also we were talking a little bit before about the Paul McCartney cameo and things that we think maybe were successful or less successful about it. But I do think like one aspect of that whole sequence that I was quite into was the aftermath, where you see
The interview on the park bench.
the interview on the park bench, also with Paul, where he's saying like he did what he did, and it's like if they don't like it, screw him. But I liked that moment. But then the interview with David on the park bench in Jackson Square in New Orleans, where he's saying like he's talking about how he and Paul just didn't quite click, and the line he says that got me was perhaps it's due to the flaws in my character, which I'm proud of.
What do you guys think? Unlikely shared universe?
I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Let's
Totally.
do it. I'll get us started if you
Yeah.
guys don't
Go
mind.
for it.
All right. Well, when Spinal Tap finally gets a chance to unveil their Stonehenge replica descending from above the stage, finally in its correct proportions, as we've mentioned, there below merrily prance two druids for scale. For at least one of these druids, named Damien, this is not merely a paycheck. He's actually a huge fan of tap. You see, Damien, we'll call him that for now, is actually a professional skateboarder and daredevil who, as part of a group of troublemaking men children, became well known to the population at large for their pain-inducing antics. Damien and his buddies, they all appreciate Spinal Tap, the film and the goofy, anarchic tinged songs that they're famous for. So when a call goes out for druids to grace the stage and sell Tap's triumphant redo, Damien makes his way out to New Orleans for a chance to be a part of this special moment for a band that has meant so much to him. And I'm going to say this too. When the behemoth structure, improperly balanced due to a last-minute request to move the drum riser forward, when that thing topples forward, this druid is more ready than most for that moment. Whether it's to take the brunt of the impact, like he has done so often in his daredevil days, or to narrowly escape its crushing power, Damien sees it as all in a day's work. And at least that night, amidst the chaos and frustration of a moment of glory gone wrong, this wee man can stand tall.
Very good.
Yeah.
This is Jackass.
This is wee man, who's Jason Acuna.
Yeah.
That guy has like one of my favorite smiles. He is just has like just radiance to him. And I've listened to a bunch of interviews with him. Just like a really cool, solid guy. And I love that that guy found success.
Yeah,
man.
totally.
And when I saw him in the movie, I was like, that's him. That's the guy. So yes. Taking a page out of your David Wayne Bamboozled.
Yeah, I was like, this is just our reality.
This is our reality.
I'm
down for that. I mean, this movie already, toes the line a bit with that.
That's true.
So I went all the way there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's he and Brad Williams, who appears as the other druid. They're both Jackass alumni.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I can keep this going.
All right, go for it.
So at around the middle of the events that we see in Spinal Tap II, the band meet with a fitness trainer semi-appropriately named Bob Kitness, who seems eager to help the band achieve fitness goals that may not be realistic for people their age. This is at the urging of their manager, Simon Howler, who also doesn't seem to have the best interests of people that age at his heart. In Bob Kitness's case, his lack of this awareness may be due to the fact that fitness training is the latest in a series of stints that the so-called Bob Kitness has concocted to stay afloat following the disgrace that ended his former career in politics. See, Kitness used to be known by his real name, John Levy, up through his tenure as the White House press secretary. However, a steady climb to that position eventually gave way to a speedy decline when it fell upon him to break a fake news story about a war in Albania to distract from allegations of sexual misconduct made against the then sitting president of the United States in the weeks leading up to an election at that. While the ruse lasts for a little while, its incitement of actual harm leads to its exposure as a ruse and then the quick fall from grace for all the people involved. John Levy would then go into hiding and, to continue with his tendency towards grift, assume a succession of fake identities and repeatedly start new businesses that would quickly go under, as well as frequently moving from one location to another to avoid the exposure of his mishaps. It's in this string of events that he dons the name Bob Kitness and briefly becomes the designated trainer of the reunited Spinal Tap.
I love that we brought in a movie that we've talked about and all thoroughly enjoyed, I think.
Yeah. I always like connecting to movies we've done before. That was very fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Very cool.
Yeah. This is Wag the Dog.
Yes.
Yes, which we covered about a year ago with our, great friend of the show, Idris Goodwin.
Shout out to you, Idris.
Yeah. Recently had on again for Bamboozled. Check that out if you haven't already. But yeah. That's my unlikely shared universe.
I always forget that John Michael Higgins is in Wag the Dog.
Yeah, and like so briefly, but when you see him and you know him, you're like,
oh my God.
Oh my God.
There's a few movies where his appearances are like that. I felt the same thing watching The Man Who Wasn't There.
Yeah.
No, you got around to that one.
Oh, like a year ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
There was, we mentioned it as a not to be confused for I'm Not There. And at that point, I hadn't seen it. But
got it.
I have seen it now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I will round us off. So Marty says that the original Spinal Tap documentary didn't find much success. And also the band members were quite displeased with how they were portrayed. And we find out that he now teaches at the Ed Wood School of Cinematic Arts. But he didn't get that gig immediately after making the first film. took him a while. A few years after the original project wraps, he moves to the Pacific Northwest and stops using his stage name of Marty DeBurgi. You thought that was a real name? Come on. So he goes back to his birth name of Jay. Jay is soon married, but after a few years, the two decide to go their separate ways. So that does not last long either. He re-enters the dating scene and finds that a new Italian dessert is rising in popularity at the swanky restaurants that he frequents for dates. And the women he's accompanied by all seem to love it. So when his friend Sam loses his wife tragically and begins dating again himself, Jay/Marty is thrilled to be able to tell his friend about tiramisu, but chooses not to correct Sam when Sam assumes that this is the name of an illicit sex act, perhaps because of his appreciation for the same type of innuendo that you hear in a lot of Spinal Tap's hits. Luckily, all works out just fine for Sam without knowing about the now ubiquitous dessert, and Jay/Marty goes on about his life for the next 3 decades before reuniting with the members of TAP, as we see here.
I think you got me. I'm really trying to rack my brain. This is Rob Reiner.
This is Rob Reiner. And I have to say that I know you have not seen this movie, Julian.
Okay.
I am almost positive you have, Emilio, because if not, then we should probably rename our podcast.
Oh, yeah. Sleepless in Seattle.
Very good.
Oh my God. You're so right. I forgot that he was in that movie.
Yeah. So he is Tom Hanks' friend in that who tells him about tiramisu. And Tom Hanks is like, you have to tell me what this is. A woman is going to want me to do it to her.
That's right. Sam. Yes. Yes. Oh man, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Fair enough.
So
he has a relatively small part in it.
It is pretty small, but I like when we do that. That's
and it's
great.
very significant because I learned not too long ago that movie kind of single-handedly makes tiramisu a popular dessert in the U.S. That it was not nearly as common in the 80s to be able to find tiramisu at restaurants. And after the hit of this movie and Rob Reiner talking about tiramisu in one scene to Tom Hanks, now every Italian restaurant you go to has tiramisu. And we have Rob Reiner to thank for that.
Wow.
Seriously.
That's amazing.
That's tiramisu is one of my favorite desserts.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And
thanks, Rob.
You might not feel that way if it hadn't been for that.
Yeah.
I'm already grateful to Rob Reiner for many things.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. I'm with you on that too.
Yeah. This is
that's
the latest
great.
one.
I think, man, I like totally spaced on that. I have like other like weird associations with that movie and
Fair
like,
enough.
the ending and the Empire State Building of it all.
Yeah, of course.
And the phone calls and the kid.
Yeah,
and
it's like I probably could have made it more obvious if I leaned more into Sam.
No. That was perfectly done. Yeah. Very well done. I love that. We did it. We talked Spinal Tap too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just say really briefly that I think after talking about it with you guys, I realized that, like this movie didn't bowl me over, but it was fun. It was fine. And you know what? I bet I will enjoy it a little bit more next time I see it. Which I think we've said was the same for the original. And while it probably won't reach those heights, there's still something to be said for when a movie gets better on rewatch. So there we go. That's how I feel.
But yeah, I think Spinal Tap 2, I saw it 2 times in the theater. I thought it was very enjoyable both times. Like we're all saying, it doesn't change the game, but it doesn't have to. And it knows that. And that makes it a stronger movie.
Yeah, I agree. I had a good time with this. I will probably not revisit it super soon, but I imagine a few years from now, I may want to make this a double feature. I feel like it'd be really interesting to watch them back to back.
Yeah.
Maybe it would make me like this less, or maybe it would make me appreciate it more. I don't know.
I'm ready to go either way on that too.
Yeah.
Well, I could see that.
The original movie is still quite fresh in my mind from when we covered it last year.
Same.
And, I've like sometimes, just quizzed myself a little bit. Like if I got a chance to put together a Sight and Sound top 10, what movies would I put on it? And I think Spinal Tap almost certainly has to be there.
Yeah.
It's a classic. And if anything, I think this movie reminds us of that.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, in addition to this podcast, you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Sleepless Cinematic Pod. You can contact us via email. We would love to hear from you. Write to us at sleeplesscinematicpod@gmail.com. And you can catch me on Stone's Top 10s this week.
Oh, yeah.
So I chatted Lion King, the original Lion King from 1993.
Yep.
1994 with Anna Stone at Stone Stop Tins. That episode drops this week, so check that out. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at Patroness of Cats.
Yes, and you can also follow me, Julian, on Letterboxd at Julian_Barthold. And if you're listening to us for the first time, thank you for finding us. Or if this is the 5th or 6th or 70th time you've listened to us, thank you for sticking with us. We have really grown to love doing this, and it means the world to have our budding listenership grow.
And if you haven't already, we'd ask you, return listener, to please, pretty please, write us a positive review. Rate us on your podcast platform of choice. This is one of the best ways for new listeners to find us and help our podcast take its next steps. You can also keep it grassroots. You can tell a friend to tell a friend about the Sleepless Cinematic Podcast. That helps too.
And just a PSA for our listeners, take care of your drummers.
Yes, please do. All you musician listen.
If you see one possibly choking on something,
Learn the Heimlich maneuver.
step up and do the Heimlich.
Do it.